Ride the signal through the unknown. This is the cryptic current.
More than 3 years ago, we once introduced a prophetic comic book about the future I saw. The book was published in 1997, but after hitting the shelves, it still didn't attract readers. It wasn't until after the major 311 earthquake in Japan that the Japanese discovered it. The cover of this comic had long stated that a great disaster would occur in March 2011. Not just the cover, when flipping through the pages, we even saw scenes of a tsunami. These images eerily matched the scenes of the 311 disaster. In an instant, this comic book attracted enormous attention. Soon after, someone claiming to be Tatsuki set up a website and continuously posted prophecies on it. By 2021, the real Tatsuki proactively contacted the publisher and provided related evidence like publishing tax invoices to prove that the other Tatsuki was fake. Actually, the real Tatsuki is now over 70 years old and is now forced to step forward to verify. Besides wanting to stop the impersonator from continuing to use her name to spread nonsense rumors, the most important thing is that she also has important information related to 2025 to tell everyone. It turns out the tsunami in the comic book first published in 1997 was not caused by the 311 earthquake, but will occur in this year's disaster. Regarding this, we will share many details that people don't know yet. So why did Tatsuki write the Great Disaster of March 2011 on the cover? Tatsuki said she had already completed all the content in the comic book at that time. Before finishing the manuscript, she was drawing the cover image for the comic. The girl in the picture is a self-portrait of her. There are many blank pages floating around. On these blank pages, scenes from her dreams are recorded. But one page has been left blank all along. She was still thinking about what to draw on that blank page. And then that night, she had a dream. In the dream, she went to a movie theater. Then, a line of text appeared on the white screen. A great disaster will occur in March 2011. Although Tatsuki didn't know what would happen on that day, a kind of intuition told her that this was very important information. And so she immediately decided to put this line of text on the cover. This is also why there is only text on this page. Because at that time, she didn't see the disaster scene. So the issue is clear now. If the tsunami in the comic isn't 311, then what is it? In the 2021 complete edition, Tatsuki gave the latest prophecy. It turns out after the first publication of the comic, Tatsuki had 2 more prophetic dreams. And based on the information in the dream, in July 2025, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines will have major events occur. In today's video, we not only take everyone to deeply explore this comic book, but also reveal much information in the comic that we've never talked about before. Why do many Japanese netizens think Taiwan is the center of this disaster? Why in this comic book does Tatsuki urge everyone to run quickly? Do we need to be tense? Today we will talk together about the most important prophecy of 2025. On December 2, 1954, Tatsuki was born in Kanagawa, Japan, and is now 71 years old. She has published many comic books, among which the one everyone is most familiar with, The Future I Saw. Notably, Tatsuki is not the author's real name but a pen name. According to the author herself, she has never revealed her real name. Because from the very beginning, Tatsuki knew they would not be a manga author for life. To avoid having their life disturbed, Tatsuki chose not to reveal their true identity. It wasn't until 2021, in an autobiography published by Tatsuki, that a rare photo taken at age 29 was released. In this book, Tatsuki did not hide but openly expressed that. In reality, they do not possess any special physique or extrasensory ability, but for some reason, Tatsuki kept dreaming about events related to their own future. And this story must begin from when Tatsuki was 9 years old. That year, due to moving houses, Tatsuki had to transfer schools mid-term and was even ostracized by class. This made Tatsuki hate going to school. Then one day, Tatsuki began to ponder. Why am I me? Why was I born on Earth? Why do I exist in this body? That's right, why do I have to stay inside this body? Following that train of thought, Tatsuki tried to project their consciousness out of the body, flying straight out into the universe. Tatsuki could feel how incredibly small they were, and just as they were closely observing their own body, suddenly felt as if someone far away was watching them. Curiously looking up, Tatsuki saw an old man. The old man wore a long robe, appearing very kind and approachable. At that moment, Tatsuki felt as if they had returned home, and tears just flowed out. Tatsuki even thought the old man was the creator. And if people look closely at the manga cover, they will notice an arm drawn above. The owner of that arm seems to be wearing a white long robe. Could Tatsuki be implying that the prophetic dreams are information from the creator? Because according to Tatsuki's account, after meeting the creator, Tatsuki often dreamed of a great tsunami. However, at that time, Tatsuki did not have the habit of recording dreams, so he did not draw the tsunamis in the manga. It wasn't until 1985 that Tatsuki started recording dreams in a diary given by their mother. And the reason Tatsuki recorded them was not because they knew these were prophetic dreams. But in fact, Tatsuki did not think their dreams would come true. Tatsuki recorded them because they really liked analyzing dreams, until the following events occurred. On August 27, 1989, Tatsuki had a strange dream. In the dream, Tatsuki saw a cave filled with seawater and a strange woman standing nearby. She seemed to be talking, but because the waves kept crashing, Tatsuki couldn't hear what the woman was saying. The peculiar thing was that Tatsuki had this dream many times, and so Tatsuki began to try analyzing it. Books say that caves symbolize a connection to the spiritual world, but they can also represent the subconscious. And the strange woman might represent another personality of Tatsuki. However, this speculation changed a year later. That day, as a manga author, Tatsuki, stuck without ideas, decided to go out to relax. At that time, to find inspiration, Tatsuki deliberately chose a place they had never been to, but during the process, they discovered the cave that had appeared in their dream. Immediately, Tatsuki picked up a camera and took photos, planning to compare them with the images recorded in a dream diary after developing the photos. However, what Tatsuki didn't expect was that on the very day the photos were developed, they saw that scene on the news broadcast. A fisherman had seen the body of a woman in that very cave. And the characteristics and clothing of that woman were exactly the same as the person in the dream, meaning the event Tatsuki dreamed of had actually occurred. At that time, Tatsuki was very shocked, but what was even more shocking was that this was not the first time Tatsuki had dreamed of the future. In November 1976, Tatsuki dreamed of themselves and a friend listening to a news announcement. Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the band Queen, passed away. In the dream, she was so sad that she burst into tears. Then Tatsuki woke up. At that moment, she suddenly remembered a common saying: if you dream of something ominous, quickly tell someone about it, and it won't come true. So, she told this dream to many friends. Sure enough, after that, Freddie continued to live healthily. However, 10 years later, on November 24, 1991, TV channels unexpectedly reported Freddie's death. At that time, Tatsuki suddenly felt a familiar sensation, as if she had experienced this somewhere before. A few days later, she dug out the diary where she had recorded the dream. The result was surprising. She discovered that on November 24th, 10 years, she had dreamed of watching the news of Freddie's death on TV. And the day she had the dream coincidentally was also the day. Moreover, she didn't just dream of Freddie only once. On November 28, 1986, Tatsuki dreamed of the band Queen performing on stage. But what puzzled her was that in that performance, Freddie was nowhere to be seen. Even among the bronze statues on display, there was no Freddie. And just as Tatsuki was recalling these dreams, she suddenly realized that dream had occurred on November 28th of the previous year. And the very day she remembered this event coincidentally was also November 28th. At this point, Tatsuki finally discovered that she not only dreamed of the future, but these dreams were all related to people, events, or things connected to her, or a future she could potentially be involved in. For example, the prophetic dream about a woman's body in a cave. Later, she actually visited the scene, or like Tatsuki seeing the news of Freddie's death on TV. In other words, Tatsuki couldn't dream of a world more than 100 years into the future. She could only dream of people, events, or things that intersected with her life while she was alive. And such dreams had once made her feel very uneasy, especially when she dreamed of scenes related to death. On January 2, 1995, Tatsuki dreamed of two enormous cracks appearing on the ground. At the time, she thought this was a prophetic dream about her impending death. Because in the dream, besides seeing the cracks on the ground, she also saw the god of death. She told the god of death to take her along. But the god of death told her, "Not yet, I will come back to get you in 5 years." Not only that, that same year she also dreamed of her own funeral. Even seeing that the funeral was held on July 15th. Therefore, she always believed she would pass away on July 15th, 2000. But it turned out this dream wasn't predicting the time of her death. And exactly 15 days after dreaming of the ground cracking, on January 17, 1995, a great Hanshin earthquake occurred. This earthquake reached a magnitude of 7.3 on the Richter scale. Moreover, the shallow focal depth of only 17.6 kilometers caused a severe disaster, resulting in over 6,000 deaths and about 250,000 houses destroyed. At that time, when Tatsuki saw the scenes on the news, she was utterly astonished. Because the scenes were exactly like what she had dreamed 15 days earlier. Only then did she understand that the scene in this dream wasn't the time of her death, but a major disaster about to happen. Besides the Hanshin earthquake in 1992, Tatsuki dreamed of a drawing of herself. Next to her drawing was a photo of a girl named Dana. And then, 5 years after dreaming of this photo, Queen Dana unfortunately passed away. Therefore, some netizens believe that Tatsuki's prophetic dream came true. Events will occur according to a certain multiple-year rule after she dreams. For example, in 1976 she dreamed of Freddy's death, and 15 years later it came true. On January 2, 1995, she dreamed of the ground cracking, and 15 days later the Great Hanshin earthquake occurred. In 1992 she saw an image of Princess Diana, and 5 years later Diana died. However, this is not always the case, as sometimes Tatsuki will directly see the moment when a prophetic dream becomes reality. For example, that year when about to publish a book, she once dreamed of the Great March 2011 disaster. Or like this time, Tatsuki saw the great disaster that will occur in July 2025. And she believes this is actually the date of her own death. At the end of the 20th century, the whole world was paying attention to the prophecies of the famous seer Nostradamus, Great King of Terror. Many believed this statement predicted the world would face a destructive disaster in July 1999. Therefore, media in various countries, including Japan, heatedly discussed the possibility of doomsday. Among them was a special program introducing the famous Indian spiritual leader, Sai Baba. While watching this program, Tatsuki was utterly astonished, because she had repeatedly dreamed of this mysterious figure but didn't know who it was. So Tatsuki immediately researched this person. Once she looked into it, she discovered the palm lines on Sai Baba's right hand were very similar to the palm lines on her own left hand. This coincidence made it impossible for her to ignore. Therefore, Tatsuki later decided to personally go to India to meet Sai Baba. But what she didn't expect was that at the end of this journey, she suddenly awakened memories of her past life. At the moment she traveled from afar to India to meet Sai Baba, many images, both strange and familiar, suddenly surged in her mind. It turned out her past life and Sai Baba's were a father and son from England living in the 1800s. And just as Tatsuki recovered that memory, Sai Baba also telepathically told her, "I know." During this trip, Tatsuki also had an extremely terrifying dream. In the dream, Tatsuki was in the air above the Pacific Ocean, looking down at Earth from a satellite's perspective. Suddenly she noticed the sea area between Japan and the Philippines had continuous bubbles rising. It seemed something was tearing the Earth apart. Such a terrifying dream, Tatsuki dreamed it 2 more times. In the second dream, a similar event occurred again. But this time she saw more details. There were 2 things that looked like 2 dragons flying from east to west, followed by a huge explosion echoing from the seabed. A tsunami even larger than the 311 tsunami surged into Japan, submerging 1/3 to 1/4 of Japan's territory underwater. Not only Japan, Tatsuki also said areas around the Pacific were all attacked by the tsunami. But this was not the most astonishing thing. After the seawater receded, Tatsuki saw that between Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the Philippines, a completely new landmass had appeared, connecting these areas together. The crucial point is this time Tatsuki also saw the dream's occurrence time was July 2025. but it didn't display a specific date then. Because the images were so shocking, Tatsuki woke up at that moment. She saw the time was 4:18 a.m. on July 5, 2021. Therefore, Tatsuki believes this prophetic dream will occur on July 5, 2025. Netizens even made further speculations. The disaster was predicted to occur at 4:18 a.m. that day, because Tatsuki woke up exactly at that moment. Currently, many people believe the disaster Tatsuki dreamed was very likely caused by natural factors. For example, an undersea volcanic eruption leading to strong tectonic plate shifts, ultimately causing the disaster. But if one reads the book carefully, they will discover that Tatsuki actually once said she believed this disaster could be due to a volcano, but could also be caused by a bomb. In fact, she leaned more toward the possibility of a human-caused disaster. This is also why Tatsuki called the 311 event a great disaster, and the 2025 event a great accident. Because, from Tatsuki's perspective, disasters are usually caused by natural while accidents have the potential to be due to human factors. But this seems unlikely to happen. How could human factors cause such a massive catastrophe? Regarding this issue, we also noticed in 1965, on the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Ticonderoga, there was an A-4 Skyhawk aircraft. During training, while preparing to move into elevator number 2, from the aircraft hangar, it accidentally fell into the sea. It has not been found to this day. Notably, this aircraft was also carrying a B-43 hydrogen bomb. Therefore, many netizens questioned whether this hydrogen bomb was the cause of the accident. According to documented records, the destructive power of the B-43 hydrogen bomb is equivalent to 70,000 to 1 million tons, which is 66 times the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. However, the suspected location where the B-43 hydrogen bomb fell is quite far from where Tatsuki saw the seabed cracking. So it cannot be confirmed whether this bomb is the culprit or not. But these incidents still make Japanese netizens quite anxious. Because, according to Tatsuki's account, after her trip to India, she believed the tsunami in her dream would definitely occur in this accident. So then, in Tatsuki's dream, what else happened on July 5, 2025? One day in 1981, Tatsuki had a very strange dream. She dreamed that in some year, Japan's climate became abnormal, with almost the entire year being very cold. Then, starting from some month, small earthquakes continuously occurred all over Japan. And then one day, the seawater suddenly receded. Before people could even react, an enormous roar sounded, accompanied by a tsunami rushing onto the streets. Everyone was terrified, not knowing what to do. They ran around in chaos. The entire city plunged into disorder. And right in the midst of that fear and despair, Tatsuki jolted awake from the dream. However, she didn't truly wake up. This was a dream within a dream. After waking from the previous dream, Tatsuki looked at the clock. It was around 5 a.m., and Tatsuki couldn't distinguish whether this was a dream or reality. Regarding this part, Tatsuki's dream diary records more specific details. This is an image of the diary that recorded Tatsuki's actual dream. The dream diary mentions that after the tsunami appeared, Hades. This is the god who rules the underworld in European mythology. And then Tatsuki lost consciousness. When she regained consciousness, she found herself in a room that had been flooded with seawater, meaning the disaster had already occurred. At that moment, she looked at her watch and discovered that the wristwatch seemed to have stopped running, frozen at around 5 o'clock. Could this disaster have broken the watch? Because this time is close to when Tatsuki woke up, after dreaming of the Pacific sky 40 years later. Perhaps due to being unable to distinguish reality, Tatsuki felt extremely confused at this point. Afterwards, Tatsuki left the house. She went outside and found no one on the streets, nor any vehicles. She wandered aimlessly in a daze, then saw a very high overpass and unconsciously headed in that direction. Along the way, she noticed the roadside shops looked strange, as if they had just experienced some kind of accident. Then, Tatsuki entered a clothing store and found it selling a pile of old, yellow clothes, which made her even more puzzled. At this moment, the scene suddenly shifted. Tatsuki was on the overpass she had just seen. Then she saw a vast sea, surrounded by thick fog, as if beyond what was in front of her, the entire world had been submerged. Currently, many Japanese people speculate that Tatsuki had likely already passed away at this point, because after the tsunami, Tatsuki mentioned Hades, the god who rules the world after death. So from here, what Tatsuki described might be the scenery of the afterlife, and that very high overpass could very well be the road leading to the world after death. After climbing the overpass, seeing the vast sea, this might be the Sanzu River. Japanese folklore believes that the Sanzu River is the river leading to the underworld after a person dies. It is similar to the Neiyu River in Chinese folk legend, where souls gather here, preparing to go to the underworld. At this moment, one side will have a robe specializing in providing clothes for these clothes will be hung on tree branches to weigh the sins of the departed. The heavier the clothes, causing the branch to sag lower, the heavier the sins. Could it be that the clothing store earlier wasn't selling clothes, but rather hanging clothes of the deceased? After stepping onto the overpass, Tatsuki saw 3 spirit boats again. But a moment later, she discovered there weren't just 3, but many. These boats carry people from different countries, including Korea, America, India, France. So some netizens decoded that these boats come to carry those lost in the disaster. Does this suggest that this accident will be a large-scale global accident? But is this possible? Taiwanese earthquake fortune teller Wo Kai once stated to the media that, from the perspective of plate movement, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines cannot connect as one, but it seems to inadvertently align with a future supercontinent. However, the time for the supercontinent to form would take at least 300 years to occur. Nevertheless, Chan Thomas, who was less invited to work for the CIA as a geologist, has a different view. In 1963, Chan Thomas wrote a book titled Adam and Eve. Later, this book was banned by the CIA. In this book, it mentions that once the Earth experiences a pole shift, not only will there be mountain-high tsunamis, but it could even lead to violent movement of the Earth's crust and volcanic eruptions, although experts have now come forward to explain that a pole shift is a long process spanning hundreds of thousands. Thomas said that, based on his research, the pole shift would be completed within a day, which is truly exaggerated. He even predicted that this event is very likely to occur in the next 7 to 200 years. Inferring from the book's publication year of 1960, this time frame roughly falls between 1970 and 2163. Regarding the predictions of John Thomas, we have mentioned them before. Interested viewers can look into it further. Besides the pole shift, I wonder if everyone still remembers Kimura's magical apple? Actually, Mr. Kimura was he once boarded an alien spaceship, and inside the spaceship, he saw a stone tablet mentioning the year 2025. It recorded that in 2025, a green star would approach Earth, leading to a series of different disasters, including heavy rain, strong winds, food shortages, and earthquakes. At that time, Mr. Kimura told this story to his close friend, Ruzan Takano. He is a monk, and also a very famous UFO expert in Japan. Ruzan Takano once shared this in YouTuber Naokimane's program. He believes that the green star Mr. Kimura saw coincidentally matches the prophecy of the apocalypse mentioned by the Hopi people. The Hopi people believe that the current world is the fourth world, and there have been 3 apocalypses before. The first world was destroyed by a great fire. The second world was frozen by ice and snow. The third world was submerged by a great flood. And we are currently in the final period of the fourth world. Once 9 omens occur, the fourth world will end. Currently, 8 of those 9 omens have already become reality. There is an object in the sky, far above the Earth, that will fall and cause a massive collision. When it appears, it will be a blue star. Once it falls, the whole world will fall into chaos. White people will wage war against peoples on other lands. There will be thick smoke and great fires erupting, causing death and epidemics. And all these apocalyptic scenes occur after the blue star falls. Surely some viewers have noticed. The Hopi people speak of a blue star, different from the green star Mr. Kimura mentioned. But in the interview, Ruzen Takano shared that many Japanese people often describe blue as green. Especially in that interview, Mr. Ruzen Takano also told the audience that he once hosted a hockey elder who came to Japan for investigation. At that time, the elder confirmed to him that in 2025, a blue star will indeed approach Earth. It seems many hockey elders already know about this. Not only the hockey people. In 2022, an Aho elder once stepped forward to warn that 2025 will be an irreversible turning point for humanity. Besides the above prophecies, we also discovered a Japanese man named Kunio Yasui. Recently, he has been attracting significant attention from the audience because he has provided much additional information about July 5, 2025. First, let me introduce some background about this person. Kunio Yasui is a Japanese physicist specializing in quantum mechanics, mathematical physics, and brains. Kunio's academic foundation is very solid. But later he shifted his passion to researching aliens, religion, and quantum consciousness. On February 7, 2025, the YouTube channel named Tolerant Vlog uploaded an interview video with Kunio. In the video, he made shocking statements. According to a confidential source, at 4 a.m. on July 5, 2025, a fragment of an asteroid will fall. In reality, what falls is not an asteroid, but a satellite. What he says next carries a conspiratorial tone. We must remind everyone that the above information has not been verified. Mr. Kunio points out that this satellite did not fall unexpectedly, but rather during President Biden's term. We had a secret agreement with the Chinese government regarding the Taiwan issue, but this agreement seems to have been cancelled after Donald Trump came to power. He also said that choosing July 5th is because 4 a.m. on July 5th Taiwan time corresponds to the afternoon of July 4th U.S. time. This is U.S. Independence Day, the time when the U.S. is most relaxed and vigilant. Let me emphasize again that Kunio obtained this information from an informant, and there is no way to confirm its authenticity. But this video has now garnered nearly 3 million views. Subsequently, people are genuinely worried about what might happen on this July 5th. Coincidentally, Tatsuki's book also mentions that this accident is very likely caused by human factors. This is also why she calls 2025 the Great Disaster. She cannot even be sure whether it is an undersea volcano or a bomb. But this factor inevitably makes people ponder. Could this accident be caused by humans? In an interview, Tatsuki said that many people think she is amazing, able to know in advance the time of the 311 event. But in reality, after drawing the cover, she forgot everything completely. Until one time while talking with a friend, she reflected on whether she should share the prophetic dreams she knows with everyone. Tatsuki says, many people think that major disasters surely won't appear in the era they live in. But in reality, these accidents are not impossible to occur, but rather a matter of when they happen. She always thinks if she had valued her prophetic dreams more back then, reminded people to prepare for accidents, could it have reduced the casualties of the 1-to-1 earthquake? This is also why she published the book again, because she hopes people are always prepared. At the same time, in the book, she also tells everyone she once dreamed that after July 2025, there will be a brighter future. And this also aligns with the ancient prophecy of the hockey people. The prophecy of the hockey people says, although the blue star falling represents the end of the old world, but at the same time, the fifth world is also approaching, opening up a new order and hope. Personally, I believe the meaning of prophecy is not to make us live in fear, but to remind us that the unknown is not as frightening as being unprepared. We cannot know for certain what the future will bring, but we can decide how to face the future. History has proven that the survival of humanity does not depend on whether prophecies are accurate, but on whether we are ready to take action. Perhaps something will happen on July 5, 2025, or perhaps nothing will happen. But if today's shared content makes you reflect on the future, ready to change and start taking action, then whether the prophecy comes true or not is no longer important. So, in your opinion, what is the best way to be ready to change and start taking action? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below the video. Our sharing for today will pause here. If you find this video or the content on the Marubi channel truly helpful, please share it with a friend to explore together. Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you again.
If the signal hooked you, subscribe and catch the next ripple.